Okay, we are back. Week 2, Sunday morning quarterbacks. It's your boy Sosa Picks. As you already know, I'm joined by the crew. We got Spin Doc Sports, Prop God, D Mac. Week 1 came with some surprises, some of the same usual shit, some things that really is just unquestionably weird. We saw rookie quarterbacks look like rookies. We saw no rookies look like stars. We got a lot of, just like easy situations to pick at. For me, week 1, I'm going to just get it out the way. I got absolutely nothing out of week 1. I feel like I'm going to approach the first 4 weeks like it's preseason. So, giving any opinions on what I saw week 1 outside of the San Francisco 49ers are the best team in football, that's all I got. That's all I got. Anything that caught y'all's eye in week 1, anything y'all want to talk about, anything that, has got you a little bit off kilter, anybody fuck up a ticket that you just want to tell them that you hate them, we're here for that too. So we'll go spin, prop,
Yeah.
DMAC, week 1 thoughts and takeaways. What you on?
Yeah, for me, like I always tell people when they're wanting to push the panic button in fantasy leagues, is that your team, your fantasy team, your everything, you're never as bad as your worst week. You're never as good as your best week. And week 1, like Aaron Rodgers used to say, right? Like RELAX. Everybody relax. And the worst thing you can do when it comes to betting, picking, selecting a fantasy lineup is expecting that what happened week 1 is going to translate throughout the entire season. So, I mean, I already have people, in leagues wanting to like jump ship on Marvin Harrison Jr. in fantasy. And it's like, it's one freaking week and he was on the road, and but just relax, man. So, anyways, that would be my biggest thing, is that I don't usually start looking to make any serious tweaks or adjustments to any capping models or to any fantasy teams that I have until the week 3 time frame. Guys will normalize, things will come back to earth. Guys who blew up in week 1 might not necessarily do so in week 2. The only offense that I wanted to talk a little bit about that they probably will still continue to be a little bit slow is the Cincinnati Bengals. I told VIP this for weeks. They have just too many things going against them right now, with Jamar Chase still getting caught up with everything because he missed training camp, or he didn't show up or didn't practice in training camp. You have T. Higgins, who is just permanently hurt and on the injured list. You have a brand new backfield mix with Chase Brown and with Zach Moss. You have a few new coaches. It's going to take a little bit of time to get them going. So, while it should be better today against Kansas City, don't be surprised if fantasy wise or just if stats wise, you see the Bengals start a little bit slow. It's like almost like starting from scratch with what they're doing, because their top 2 targeted receivers, or guys with the most training camp reps, are a guy who wasn't 2 guys who weren't there last year, and one who's a rookie. So with Mike Gesicki and Andre, I don't even know how to say his last name, but anyways, the Bengals offense is the one that I would think that people might be expecting. Oh, okay, well, it's Joe Burrow, it's Jamar Chase. They'll just get it right just like that. That's not how this works. And they go up against another good defense again today. So don't bail on any of them. Don't like sell out and try to sell guys like Chase for pennies on the dollar, but just temper your expectations and know that it's probably going to take them another week or 2 to get going again. That would be the only one that the specific offense that I think people might be looking at to okay, well, it was 1 week and, they had a bunch of things working against them. Well, they still have those same things working against them this week. So all they have is Jamar Chase practice for a whole week. So should be better, but they have an uphill climb and they have a lot of adjusting to do. That's mine.
Yeah, I'll say as far as week 1 is concerned, I'm going to echo a lot of the points that Spin just made. fantasy wise, don't panic. Now there are some aspects of, hey, week one guys are going to panic, and you can take advantage of that throughout this week, and that also kind of applies to week two. But the guys that you drafted, guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. has been, kind of referenced to, they're going to have good games throughout the season. You didn't draft them so that they could be week one explosive plays. They're going to show up eventually as well. Obviously his concerns about the Cincinnati Bengals starting slow are very valid. To me, those week one overreactions also are shown in some of the lines from that aspect. Like, hey, there are going to be things that I'll be mentioning throughout as far as the games that we end up getting to. But since Sosa decided to bring up, his team earlier, I'll say the 49ers being only 4.5 points, favorites on the road and the Minnesota Vikings. I think people forget the Vikings were looked at as a team that was one of the worst in the league. They're starting Sam Darnold, obviously. Still have Brian Flores on the defensive end that can cause some havoc, but we saw what Kyle Shanahan did to what was supposed to be a really good defense week one versus the Jets. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey being out, people are going to look at it and be like, okay, well, things are going to be shaky. Obviously, they didn't miss a beat plugging in Jordan Mason from that standpoint. I expect the 49ers are going to go on the road and drum one of the worst teams in the league because they're one of the better teams in the league. And I think that line is a little bit representative of some of the overreactions you see in week one. So that's the real thing. There's value to be had out there. In my opinion, people overreacting to only one game sample sizes. You shouldn't have big overreactions to one data point in any realm, but certainly in sports as far as betting is concerned. So that's my big takeaway. And I'll go ahead and let Prop give his as we talk about week one.
I guess I'll touch quickly on a fantasy point. Stop drafting the consensus number one player in fantasy because it just never works out, right? Just came out today that McCaffrey might be out 6 weeks or longer. If you're someone like me who talked crap about him and said I wasn't going to draft him, and I ended up doing it anyway instead of CeeDee Lamb, who I wanted to draft, I'm kind of slapping myself this morning when I saw that news. So even guys like Puka Nacua as well, I think the high targets in fantasy. Sosa told me at the beginning of the year that injuries make or break a fantasy season the same way it does for the NFL teams. So I'm seeing that play out as well. Who I got Puka and Christian McCaffrey in the league, so a little tough sledding there from a fantasy department. Other than that, for week one, I would say we saw two quarterbacks come off Achilles injuries that are both up in age. Even though Aaron Rodgers is older than Kirk Cousins, but Rodgers looked more comfortable on the field than Kirk Cousins did. I think we'll see how Atlanta looks on Monday night against the Eagles before we get to just jump into conclusions because they did play a pretty tough Pittsburgh defense that kind of flew under the radar in the offseason. So we'll see how Kirk looks against the Eagles secondary. I would say don't panic with the Jets. The San Francisco 49ers are the first or second best team in football, and it's been like that the last 2 years. So the Jets losing, I think the fact that it was in a primetime game kind of magnified that. So we'll see how it goes, today against Tennessee. But if you had some Jet stock, I wouldn't sell it just yet. Let's see how they look over these next couple weeks. They got, I think, four or five straight winnable games. So I want to see how they manage there. Other than that, man, I don't think I could add too much. I think the situation. Well, we just talking about week one takeaways, right? Yeah, I think I'll stop it there as far as we want. I think you guys covered the rest. The Commanders' defense is still trash. We talked about that at the end of last week's show. Baker goes out there, shreds them. I think they'll get shredded every week. Their targets every week for receiving backs, receivers, running backs, whatever you want to do against the Commanders. I think you'll continue to be able to do, which it'll make their games good because the offense should get into a rhythm too as the season goes along. So. Definitely target Washington every chance you get. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I thought we might have touched on the Bears. No.
Oh no, I leave that to you. It's still. I'm not going.
Not a single offensive point they win and cover. You love to see it, man. That's why you build a football team. That's why you build a football team. Listen, I agree with everything you all said. I think the only thing that really the biggest standout to me, and the biggest thing that really left a mark in any game, the Detroit Lions, when that game got to overtime, They absolutely just walked through. I mean, they walked through.
Let's do what we do best. Let's get back to what we do.
They walked through that defense in overtime. Salute to Matthew Stafford, though. Matthew Stafford team, bunch of guys getting hurt, dropping like flies, still making it extremely competitive. I think I talked about the fact that him and McVay together are wildly still underrated for some reason, even though they've been able to get to the mountaintop and win a championship somehow in the fray of things. We just don't have it. They're just not in those conversations, and I just don't get it. But yeah, nothing else for me, man. I really just want to get into this week. I think this week, some of the games, they look like on paper from like a viewership standpoint, they might not be that good. But I think the opposite. I think we're going to get a lot of competitive football this week. I think that a lot of these lines to me are a little bit misplaced, but I want to get into it because I want to hear people's opinions. Some people think the games are priced perfectly, and we could think differently. First game we're going to get into right off the bat is a game that was featured as BMAC's marquee matchup of the week. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing at 1 p.m., traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Like everything was explained in the video earlier, Tampa Bay missing a couple of people on their back end as far as defense, going on the road. Obviously, first week, both teams coming off big wins. One game went to overtime, like I just mentioned, with Detroit, and Tampa Bay was able to dispose of a Washington team whose secondary, like Prop just mentioned, is still complete ass. For me in this one, I think I want to roll with JMO again. Those back end pieces not being available are clearly an issue. I honestly think that in this game, though, the player that I can isolate the best is Sam Laporta. Obviously, we believe Amon-Ra will probably bounce back as well, but I'm targeting Sam Laporta. I think that this Tennessee, just in general, we know they bring heat, and tight ends tend to be relatively effective because of that, because they're usually the hot read for the quarterback. They usually can get them out in space. Obviously, they're making some transitions at linebacker in Tampa Bay, so They neutralized the tight end last week, but Jay Daniel's not great at throwing over the middle of the field, and their top tight end is Zach Ertz. I'd like to believe Sam Laporta is a little better than him. From a side perspective, I think that I lean towards the Detroit Lions. I still think 7.5 points is a lot of points. I think that that Bulls will be able to get after Goff, but like I said, missing those pieces in the back end personally is tough. So yeah, the only things I'm targeting again is JMO more than anything. JMO and Sam Laporta, they have good matchups in this one. No official game pick, but I would lean the Lions. 7.5 is still a lot of points. We'll start with prop, or no, we'll go to spin. Obviously, your Bucks are in this, and I know we've already talked over everything, so your plays are already out there. But any quick thoughts? Then we'll go to prop and DMAC.
Yeah, the big thing to watch for in this one, to me, is if the Bucks can cover the number and be competitive, or if Detroit just runs away with it, is what our young offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, first year in the NFL, what he does to slow down Aiden Hutchinson. So Hutchinson only had 4 tackles on the sack in their divisional game last year, but that was when Luke Godke was in at right tackle. Godke's out today with a concussion. I talked about this on the other video. He is our emotional leader of our offensive line. He's our enforcer. He's Baker's. He's our second best offensive lineman behind Wirfs, and he is a guy that Baker talks extensively about how he always gets guys revved up. He always makes guys play harder. He holds guys and himself accountable. It's a huge loss for us. And last year in that divisional game, he handled Hutchinson one-on-one for pretty much the entire game. In fact, I don't even think that the sack was his fault. So if we can't handle him, then it's going to be a long day for us, because Baker, the biggest weakness that Baker still has is that when you force him to do things before he's comfortable, and when you force him to hold on to the ball for a long time or too long, he'll do it, and then he'll try to just say, screw it, I'm going to draw this up in the dirt. And Baker's not good at that. Baker's good in rhythm. And so if they can't stop him, then it's going to be a super, super long day for us. And Detroit can win this one by double digits easily. They've already talked about putting a tight end or a tight end alongside of Skrull, who is Godkey's backup, to do some things like that. You're probably going to see a lot of Rachaad White today. Reason being is because he's bigger than Bucky Irving. This is another reason why you don't overreact to week one, because the Commanders, as Prop correctly mentioned, are an absolute trash, terrible defense, and you can target them every week, whereas the Lions are not that. And so for a guy like Bucky Irving, who hasn't learned all the pass protections yet, and who's a smaller back than Rachaad White, when you're missing a guy like Godkey on that side, you need to keep a guy like White in that backfield to do some chip blocking, to pick up blitzes, et cetera, et cetera. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rachaad White has a good receiving day, because you can turn those blitzes into little screen passes, which White is good at. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bucky Irving's use goes down, and not because he did anything wrong, because he's an electric kid and I love the kid. It's just the game script doesn't really match up today. So I'll be watching that right side matchup a whole bunch. I gave it out on the other video. I've given it out pretty much everywhere I can as Aiden Hutchinson to record a sack. There's only so much that we can do today with a backup right tackle. And I mean, we can't just have big jumbo sets every single down, because that just doesn't lead to offensive success. So if we can handle Godkey, if we can handle the rush on the right side, then I think we can be competitive. Otherwise, and you'll be able to tell right away, because once Baker starts downhill, he typically doesn't come back. If the first quarter starts to go sideways, you might want to look at a Lions live spot. And I say that obviously, as you can see behind me, the biggest Bucks fan on this show by like a mile. So this one can either be one where we can stay competitive until the end, or the Lions run away with it. And when I would say run away, I mean this one could get ugly. So I'll say my last Sunday prayer, and we'll see what happens at 1 o'clock Eastern. So that's what I got for this one.
All right. Yeah, I think this game has the highest total on the board for week 2. So I'm expecting some fireworks, whether it's lopsided or not. I do feel like Tampa can compete, but like you said, it's a big concern at tackle when you got to face Aiden Hutchinson. Also, Antoine Winfield, I believe, is out for a couple weeks, right? So that's a little trouble for that secondary too. So when you get that, and the Bucks already were the third worst team at defending the tight end last year, I think that spells a little bit of trouble. So I do like Laporta with Sosa. Laporta's anytime touchdown is plus 125. If you can find a better line, then you shoot for that. But I'm just looking at the FanDuel line right now. Also for this game, I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I wrote a piece on my 5 favorite player props for today on FTN, and Jahmyr Gibbs over 23.5 receiving yards. I love. I think he crushed it in 6 out of 10 games at home last season. And I just think he's in a great spot. The both teams were pretty good at stopping the run last year. I think the Bucks were like top 5 as far as fewest rush yards allowed. So I think it could be a couple of tough carries from Montgomery where he gets 3 yards, and then we see Gibbs's receiving ability on full display in a matchup like this. He had 40 receiving yards in the playoff game last season, so I think he'll pick up where he left off. He covered it last week too. So those are my 2 favorite looks. Jahmyr Gibbs over 23.5 receiving yards. That was available on FanDuel, and I'm with Sosa on the Sam Laporta anytime touchdown. As far as the side, I don't have a lean. Like Spence said, it really depends on how the Bucks come out. I mean, I do expect the Lions to win the game, but like Spence, I want to see how competitive that the Bucks can be.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair from that standpoint. Look, in obviously researching for what we did with Spin and obviously Michael Scott, please go over there and look at the Max Marquee matchup video for this a little bit more in depth. But in researching for that video, looking at last year's playoff game specifically, 2 things stood out. A, Mike Evans had a monster game, and the Bucks offensive line kind of did a solid job. Now, Luke Gadecki being out can certainly change it. Obviously, a Spin, kind of talked about Aiden Hutchinson being looked at as a possible sack prop today. Certainly makes a lot of sense. Sosa, though, highlighting Sam Laporta makes total sense. What Todd Bowles wants to do. Get the send blitzes. We had a little bit of breakdown for this on the earlier video as well. I like Laporta for 50+ receiving yards. He cleared it in the playoff game. I think they're going to go out and establish him, make sure that he's ready to go. Jahmyr Gibbs, I have him rushing and receiving yards. You could take it. I have it at 60+. You could take it for more. And then I also have, because Adam Jai just actually pointed out as well, we talked about it a little bit in that video too, keeping Rashad White on the field compared to Bucky Irving because he's a bigger body is going to be important. And the way that the offensive coordinator for the Bucks was able to have some tweaks in the game plan from that standpoint, I think they'll try and use him in the passing game to possibly slow down some of those blitz looks from Bowles as well. So that over receiving yards in the first quarter was another one that I was put on. So those are kind of my 3 plays: Laporta over 50 yards, Rashad Wright over 0.5 receiving yards in the first quarter, and Jahmyr Gibbs for 60+ yards from skimmers. Those are the big 3 things that I took away from the research we did for Max Marquee matchup this week. And again, if you want, a little bit in depth after we wrap up here, go ahead and check out that video for Bucks versus Lions. But I'll throw it back to Sosa as we get to the next game. Yeah, mute though.
Yeah, I said my piece when we started. We'll get on to the next matchup. Next 1 p.m. matchup is going to be the New Orleans Saints traveling to Dallas. Both teams coming off double-digit wins. Carolina never, ever competed at any point on Sunday. They were behind the 8 ball from the jump. When you give Dennis Allen the ability to dial things up and play with a lead, his defense is going to perform, and that's what you got. You got an absolute mauling on that side. No excuses for Cleveland. They came out. They looked like shit. Their offensive line obviously doesn't have players missing. I can come up here and make all the excuses for Deshaun Watson and the pressures that he saw in his face. He was bad. He was bad even with the pressure in his face. So as far as a team, I think they had to look at themselves in the face and say, man, we can't go out here and perform like this, especially in the trenches, so we're going to get our ass whooped. It doesn't matter if you have Myles Garrett or because the name on the back of the uniform don't make the team better. And you didn't see that on Sunday. When it comes to the Cowboys offense looked okay. Their defense looked really good. But again, how much do we put stock into them playing a Cleveland Browns team that just looked atrocious for stretches? And then obviously it's kind of the same story with New Orleans. You hear even their fans say, yeah, we won, but it was the Carolina Panthers, right? So like you don't really know how to gauge what it is that you saw. In this matchup, I like Chris Olave. That's my favorite play in this matchup. I love the matchup. I think if you're going to get man coverage, I think he's more than talented enough to beat man coverage. I think you didn't really see much last week because they didn't really have to do much. They were up 30-3. They're up like 30 points at halftime. So there's no reason to get creative in the second half. There's no reason to risk throwing the ball with Derek Carr as your quarterback. No offense. But just generally speaking, we fast forward to this one. 6.5 points is a lot of points to me. However, I understand it. You got Marshawn Lattimore's not going to go today for the New Orleans Saints. He's a complete difference maker for that defense. And then I think Fuaga, I haven't gotten like the final on him. I don't know if Fuaga's playing. Their offensive line's got some possible players that might not be available today. But I love Olave over 59.5 receiving yards. That's my favorite play in the game. And on the other side, I like Dak Prescott to throw over 1.5 touchdowns. I think that he'll, especially if Lattimore doesn't play, I think they'll be able to exploit the secondary. I think that the one issue we have, just generally speaking, with the Dallas Cowboys is that we're so used to name recognition and hearing names of players that you don't realize that they're a damn good football team. We just don't know some of the guys' names on the team. And I think that that's something that people, because what you want is like, you want like the big names and you want to say, well, they drafted this guy. Dallas is drafted well on both sides of the ball with a bunch of motherfuckers that we don't know who they are. We don't know their names because they have no name recognition, but they're damn good football players. And you have to give a credit to their scouting. People tend to kind of like just, kind of like not say anything about that. The Dallas Cowboys are a pretty damn good football team built, and they built it from within. They didn't go out and spend a shit ton of money on people from outside the building. So, that's my take on as far as this matchup. The injuries on the New Orleans side make me lean towards Dallas. However, 6.5 is a lot of points. You're going to hear me say that a lot today. I think a lot of the lines are a lot of points, considering that all the games started at 0 points, and to beat an NFL team by a touchdown takes a lot, respectfully. We'll start with prop on this one. Any thoughts on plays, anybody you might like, etc., and then we'll go to spin and DMAC and we'll circle back.
Yes, sir. So, Spicy, in this one, you mentioned the absence of Lattimore and the offensive line injuries that the Saints have. I think that spells trouble. While you try not to put too much stock into what the Cowboys did, even though the defense looked shaky, the Cleveland Browns were one of the best units at home defensively last season. So I'm going to give them credit for that, coming out and putting 33 points up. I do feel like the Cleveland offense has no identity, but I don't want to overreact to what the Saints did to the Panthers either. They won the game by 35, close to 40 points, and they come in as a 6.5 point dog. It really didn't move between the 6.5 and 6. I like the Cowboys, and I like them to cover the spread today. 8-0 at home in the regular season last year. I think they averaged almost 38 points a game. The Saints ran man at the fifth highest rate. Fifth highest rate and the fifth most dropbacks last season. And I expect that to continue. Take a guess on who was the best quarterback in the NFL against man coverage last season. Don't guess, I'll tell you. Dak Prescott. He was 189 for 288, so 65.6% completion percentage, but 2,200 yards, 7.8 yards per pass attempt, 23 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions against man with a 110 quarterback rating. Then, of course, that's going to lead to CeeDee Lamb being the number one receiver against man as well. So CeeDee Lamb against man last season had 102 targets, 74 receptions, 1,019 yards, 7 touchdowns. 14 yards per catch, and he had 3 of his 100-yard receiving games against man coverage too. So 72.5% catch rate. CD had a quiet day, I think, against a tough Browns secondary. I expect the Cowboys to come out and roll today. So I like CeeDee Lamb for 100 yards. I also like him for an anytime touchdown. I like the Cowboys to cover the spread. I'm just everything Cowboys today. You cannot talk me off of it. I think we see them continue to roll at the career. They were 6-2 ATS at home last season, and I'm not buying Saints stock. It's the Saints stock at this moment. So I'm big on the Cowboys today.
Yeah, 100% with prop on this one. What the Saints did last week to me is like if a college football darling beats like a Division II, beats an FCS school, and then all of a sudden thinks that they're ready to like hang with Georgia. They're not. They're especially not when you factor in some of the injuries to, like, for example, to Lattimore. And prop is 100% right. All things CeeDee Lamb for this one. He is going to face Adonde Taylor, who just PFF grade. He has a huge advantage. Size has a huge advantage. And he also has an advantage where Lamb last year at home, 9.1 catches, 119.4 yards, and 1 touchdown per game. And that was against some good coverage. Now he gets a team that is banged up in the secondary and is projected to take about 23 to 25 snaps against Taylor, who he has a significant advantage. So not Dak Prescott. So CeeDee Lamb for 100 yards, CeeDee Lamb over receptions. And I actually like a flyer on CeeDee Lamb, 2+ touchdowns at +390. It's chalky because just Lamb himself is just always going to be kind of chalky just because he is such a big star. But hey, that's why they're big stars, because they put up numbers. And I like finding all kinds of like value in props too, about taking like, sack props and kicking props and, cute little stuff like that. But sometimes the chalk just rules. And that to me is what's going to happen today. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Dallas wins this by 2 touchdowns. And so I think if you're going to bet on Dallas for this one, I think if you're going to bet on the pieces for Dallas for this one, I would actually lean more towards going alt spreads on some of this stuff, or like Lamb, like I said, like the ATD, I 100% agree with. You can get 2+ touchdowns for +390. That's something he did multiple times at home last year. The situation is just very much set up to funnel more work to those receivers as well, because Jake Ferguson is doubtful. He is highly, highly unlikely to play. And you combine that with Dallas's implied team point total, and the points got to come from somewhere. And so I 100% agree with everything about Dallas, just absolute steamroll today. Oh, and I'll also close with my bias towards their opponent if you obviously know who my favorite team is, has nothing to do with this because I'm also not a fan of the Cowboys in any way, shape, or form. So I shit on them when I can, but today I can't. They're going to roll.
You got to appreciate Spin, sticking with the objectivity there. I very much appreciate that. I kind of see this the same way Prop and Spin do. I think that this is one of those lines that maybe a slight overreaction. Still 6.5 is a significant margin, but the Cowboys play well at home. They played well at home last year. I expect them to go out and handle the Saints as well today, especially because of the injuries. We'll see if Lattimore is playing. Colin Saunders is out, a guy that came over from the Chiefs who's played very well for the Saints. They're missing a few other bodies on defense. I'm concerned about the interior of their defensive line versus what we saw versus the interior of the Cowboys offensive line that I thought was really good showing from Cooper Beebe, one of the guys that I love coming out of K-State. And to Sosa's point, they draft extremely well, and that's why they can continue to compete at a high level, even despite their issues as far as managing the cap is concerned. And that's why they have these guys that they keep having to pay because they keep drafting so well. So I expect to continue. I see it the same way. Certainly CD. I think it's probably going to end up having a good day. I don't know the exact look I would go at, but certainly listen to Spin and Prop from that standpoint. The one I'm looking at for me personally is I think there are going to be more opportunities for them to get at the Saints defense on the ground specifically. Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott went for 25 yards and 40 yards respectively last week against a tougher Cleveland Browns defense, specifically against the run. I think they're going to be able to, you can bet them specifically at that 4 from an alt rushing standpoint, because again, I think the Cowboys are going to be playing from the front in this specific game, being able to get after that interior of the defensive line for the Saints. So I like that mismatch. Both of those guys, I think you can combine both of them and get for plus 156 over there on FanDuel. So that's the look that I like. Alt rushing yards for Dowdle and Zeke Elliott at 25 plus and 40 plus respectively. And that's what I'm looking for as a best bet for today in this specific game. But I think the Cowboys control the game and specifically on the ground have a good day.
Thank you for that.
I wanted to let Spin know real quick that 2+ touchdowns you can get at plus 550 on FanDuel. So instead of that plus 390, yeah,
even better.
And my exact play, what I'll do, CD Lamb up to 120 yards. So 100 yards is plus 130 on DK. 110 is plus, 185, and 120 is plus 285. And if you look at CD's game log, he went over 100. When he goes over 100, he gets 110. So you might as well play it up to there. I mean, closer to 120 actually. So I'll just do the CD Lamb ladder as an official bet.
Just give me my money.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, man. I love that. I'm never mad at betting on anybody that got paid. See, some dudes get paid and you're like, ease Gary, like get lazy. CD got paid. He looked like somebody who's like, I want to prove to you why I earned them checks. You know? Next game we're going to get into is one that I've heard people talking about a lot this week. I didn't even know the Niners played this week, man. I thought we might have had a bye. I mean, I've no clue we even played. But apparently we have a game at 1:00 against the Minnesota Vikings. We're only favored by 4.5 points with an over-under of 46.5. I guess the books think last year is the same as this year. I no fucking clue how they decided on 4.5. I will say that I at first I didn't understand it, but now I get it. Listen, the fact that we announced that Christian McCaffrey was not available to play on Monday night 90 minutes before the game gave us a huge advantage. And I think the casual people completely miss how much of an advantage that gave us. First and foremost, when you game plan for Christian McCaffrey, it's not the same as game planning for Jordan Mason. He's a downhill runner. There's certain things you're going to put in there as far as zone concepts that aren't the same as what you would do with the Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is a much more versatile player. He's a little bit more explosive to the edges. There's just certain things you're going to game plan for. We strapped up, lined up, and just ran it straight at them, which I honestly don't believe that was what they were expecting, right? And then obviously with Shanahan, personnel packages, he just knows how to mix and match, find his matchup. And Brock Purdy, I'm running out of reasons to not pay the kid, but we're not even going to get into that today. 4.5 to me seems insulting. I know that Flores did a very good job last year defensively against us in prime time. They had 2 50-50 plays in that game. If you remember, we had a 50-50 ball where it got took back for a defensive touchdown, and we had a 50-50 ball where Addison caught the ball and scored a touchdown. I think no one respects Sam Darnold, and I'm not saying that like to say that I don't respect him. I think that the league wide, there's this idea of Sam Darnold sucking. My issue is this is my thing with how we have an issue. This is my issue with how people view football teams. You either rely on special players or you're a scheme-based team. That's how the NFL works, in my opinion. Right? You look at Minnesota, I think Minnesota has a scheme that's down pat. They got a coach who people believe in, the play caller. He's had relatively good success with backups. You could say last year they kind of tanked towards the back end, whatever you want to say. O'Connell seems to be in that realm now where he has the weapons and the pieces to where he can try to interchange quarterbacks without having like a catastrophic drop off from player to player. Right? I think that's what he's established in Minnesota. And I think that we want to give Sam Darnold a chance, but the stuff that we've seen in the past makes us kind of hesitant. Right? And he fucking played the Giants. Like, you're gonna believe in him after that. I think the line's short. I'm not here to tell you to bet on. I'm not actually going to tell anybody to take the 49ers on the spread, even though you probably should. I'm not going to tell you to. You probably should, but I'm not going to tell you to. You probably should bet the 49ers, but don't. I'm not telling you to go do it. I like George Kittle in this one over 3.5 catches. I think the number is like at minus 146 now, so you're probably not going to get the juice on it. I like the same player I know Prop is on, so I'm going to let him give the play. And Sam Darnold to throw an interception is like getting a tax return if you're is like not getting a tax return if you work OnlyFans. Just saying. Like, you know, I mean, he's going to throw a pick, brother. Like, it's Sam Darnold will indeed throw at least one interception today. And, you know, I think they compete. Flores does a really good job. My thing is this, is that it's very difficult to beat us two times in a row unless you're the Chiefs. So good luck. Good luck and Godspeed, Sam Darnold. Good luck. That's all I really got for that one. We'll start with spin and then we'll go around the horn. But that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, I'll do what Sosa didn't want to. 49ers by like 1 million. And I'm being facetious, but look, this is my hometown team, not my team. And this happens every year with Minnesota sports fans in general. And I know because I am one, but especially with Vikings fans, is that you get off to a good start. And I mean, I see people on social media around here already talking about, you know, well, looks like we have our QB for this year. And, you know, it just, oh, the defense was suffocating. It was Daniel fucking Jones. Come on. Like, again, that's like a darling team beating an FCS squad week 1 and then thinking that they're ready to compete against Georgia. And you know how those games go. And that's how this one's going to go, in my view. Look, the other thing that's in place here is that the Vikings don't have Jordan Addison. He's doubtful to play, but he's not going to. So you're already down a weapon. You're facing a defense like San Francisco's, and you already saw that even in the absence of Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason just ran over the Jets, who were projected to be at least a top half run defense. So then the other thing too is the Vikings are going from a situation where they basically had like a month to prepare for their first opponent, who is an extremely, extremely subpar quarterback, extremely subpar offense in general, outside of a few talent pieces. And now they're going where they have less than a week to prepare for one of the top 2 teams in football without a starter on offense in Jordan Addison. It's way too much. It's just way too much, guys. The sound I believe you'll hear, that I'll hear probably more clear because I live down the street from US Bank Stadium from Minneapolis today, is the Vikings crashing back down to earth. San Francisco by a touchdown.
Not mad at it. Not mad at it at all. D-Mac, and then we'll let Prop finish up because I know the plays that he's on, I'm on too.
Yeah, I don't have any specific plays, but I do expect the 49ers, like I said earlier, to go ahead and handle business here. A little bit overreaction to what the Vikings did to the Giants. They're not that good of a team. As much as I do think that Kevin O'Connell could, coordinate a solid offense with Sam Darnold, because I believe in Kevin O'Connell and the other weapons. Take Addison out of the picture. There's not many ways that the Vikings can get at the San Francisco 49ers defense from that standpoint. So I do expect the San Francisco 49ers to go on the road, cover that 4.5 fairly easily, and get out of there with a win. And I'll leave the plays to Prop and Sosa.
All right, I'll just keep it simple and just well, first of all, I like the 49ers to cover the spread. I agree with everybody, so I don't want to keep the people on it too long. I think the 4.5 is just a clear overreaction, like the fella said. But my play in this one is Jawan Jennings. I think he's often forgot about in the 49er offense because he's the fourth option. He's bumped up to the third without Christian McCaffrey being there. Well, nah, it's still fourth. He's actually the fifth option when C-Mac is there. But I think he's forgotten about a lot. He was successful in the targets that he did get against the blitz last season. We know the Vikings run the blitz at the highest clip in the league behind Flores. So I think that'll continue. But Jawan Jennings over 1.5 receptions was minus 130 when I took it. It's now like minus 200. I played the 3+. I think at plus, I want to say plus 350 or plus 375. I don't know if you can still find the value there, but he had 5 receptions last week against the Jets. In this same spot last season against the Vikings, he had 5 receptions as well. I'm not saying to ladder him up to 5 again, but I think he's in a great spot, especially dealing with the blitz that Minnesota will be sending. And I think Purdy will continue to play well. I think Debo for a touchdown is not a bad look. But I see Ayuk getting involved in this game too. Our highest projection from FTN for this game is Ayuk at almost 80 receiving yards. And his baseline is at about in the 50s, I want to say. So we love Ayuk today from a data aspect. So not mad at the Ayuk ladder.
I like both of those plays. They're going to be aggressive, specifically on second down, the blitzing at this 49ers offense to try and get them in difficult situations. They catch them on 1 or 2 of them blitzing into the right gap as far as the run play is concerned. That's when Ayuk is going to come into play and can create those big plays versus the Vikings. And certainly Jawan Jennings has done a very good job. And specifically when Christian goes out, Debo has more responsibility out of the backfield, which brings Jawan Jennings onto the field as a wide receiver more often. And that's how you get, him obviously more involved in the passing game specifically.
Yep.
Listen, I'm glad y'all are supporting the San Francisco 49ers. I hear they're a pretty damn good football team, unless they play the Chiefs. The next game we're going to get into is the Cleveland Browns taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars laying 3 points at the crib. Jacksonville squandered a 17-0 lead last week against the Miami Dolphins, and everybody started boing in the Miami Dolphins team, and then we saw them get served on Thursday night badly. Tua Tagovailoa also has no plans on retiring, and if you are pushing for somebody you don't know to retire from their life's work, you need to shut the fuck up on the internet. That's just my opinion. I can say that. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing it. Stop suggesting that he retire. He plays football. He knows what he signed up for. Shut the fuck up forever, please. That's not your place to do that. If you can't tell me the difference between cover 4 and cover 2, shut the fuck up about Tua's future. Please and thank you. In this matchup, Browns defense, I think, shows up, shows out. Not concerned about that. I am concerned about their offensive line going against. And Eric Armstead looked really good last week. He looks like he's a seamless fit to go alongside Josh Allen and I almost said Jarrett Allen. To go alongside Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. I think that the defensive line looks good. They looked good last week. Obviously, losing Tyson Campbell for the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is crucial. He's their number 1 cornerback. I think Amari Cooper did a pretty good job last week of getting open. The ball didn't get to him. Either there was pressure in his face or Deshaun Watson just simply missed him a couple times, and we spoke on that already. Nothing really impressed me in the second half from the Jaguars. Didn't really throw the ball. And then in the last possession, when they had a chance to go down the field to win the game, Trevor Lawrence got sacked twice by Jalen Phillips. So not quite understanding what their game plan was in the second half. Doug Peterson went against every principle that we know him to have, which is continue to throw the ball no matter the situation. But for some reason, he just stopped throwing the ball. And Tua and them turned everything around on one play, and they lost the game. Far as props in this one, I like Jerome Ford over 3.5 receptions. Last week, you just saw running backs able to just get out in motion. They line him up against a linebacker for the Jaguars, and it didn't really matter who it was in the backfield. A-Chain had his way. You put him in motion, and I think that's part of what they're going to install here. Jerome Ford's a scat back. He's not Nick Chubb. He is a pass-catching back out of the backfield. We know he has that element to his game. I think he fits Deshaun Watson's skill set a lot better anyway. And I just think they're in a prime position. He's in a prime position to perform well. I also would not be mad at a ticket on Jerry Jeudy or Amari Cooper. I know you hate Jerry Jeudy, but he got in the end zone last week, so I kind of looked right. And that's where I'm at. I think Cleveland's defense, in the fray of them losing, I think people kind of thought like they didn't perform well. I urge you to go look at the fucking tape again. They performed damn well. They just couldn't get anything going on offense. The defense looked the same. It's the same dominant defense. What they do, they made sure Dallas ain't getting the end zone, and they gave up a special teams touchdown. That ain't on them. Their offense couldn't generate shit. And I think that the Jacksonville's defense is going to be a little bit easier to maneuver around, even if Deshaun is not as good as we'd like to believe anymore. We'll actually start with D-Mac on this one, and then we'll go D-Mac spin prop, and we'll get on to that. Like I said, for me, Jerome Ford, love him, and Trevor Lawrence throw an interception is another look that I love him throw a pick -132. You're actually getting a decent value to bet straight, but against this Cleveland defense, I think Trevor Lawrence for sure turns it over at least once today and gives it back to that defense. So D-Mac, I know, like I said, anything quick, and then we'll get on to spin, and then prop. We'll get into your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that Jerome Ford play at all. It certainly makes a lot of sense. The one mismatch that I will say is both of these edges, Miles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, versus both of the Jacksonville Jaguars tackles. The Jaguars offensive line struggled a lot last year. That didn't necessarily get a whole lot better versus the Dolphins necessarily in pass protection. Certainly Trevor Lawrence could be pressured into an interception. He is prone to those, to say the least, as well. So I think the Cleveland defense can show up and have a really good day as well. I'm not necessarily like looking at any particular plays. This is kind of a volatile game to me. I could see a situation where the Jaguars simply put up enough points where the Cleveland Browns can't keep up. I could see the flip side where the Cleveland Browns make this an incredibly ugly game with their defense. Trevor turns the ball over once. Travis Etienne ends up fumbling the ball a few times, and throughout the situation, this is an ugly game all the way around. So I can see either way it goes. Volatile game. This is more of a fact-finding mission for me for two teams that should be in the wild card hunt, and obviously are coming off losses in their first week. So I'm staying away from plays personally, but I'd love to hear what spin and prop have.
Yeah, one look for this game, under. I mean, you guys already talked about it, about the strength of both defenses and some of the struggle points of both offenses. And the Cleveland offense, you know, it's funny because at the beginning I told everybody just to relax and not overreact, but you also have to look at the situation that they're in, because you have a situation with Cleveland where, yeah, they played against a really, really good defense that had a lot of time to prepare for them, but you go deeper in the numbers and they were really, really bad, like really, really bad. And Deshaun Watson was really bad, because if you watch that game, not only does his completion percentage show, but like his throws, even when he had time, weren't even close. He was missing wide open guys, and he's going to be without David Njoku today. So one of his favorite receivers, and actually second in targets last year to only Amari Cooper, was on pace to lead the team in targets last week before he got hurt. And the other thing on top of that is this game is at Jacksonville. There is now a 45 to 50% chance of rain showers and wind gusts upwards of 17 miles an hour blowing every which way. So you factor in some weather, you factor in two offenses that had some struggles last week. You factor in that, especially on the Cleveland side of the ball, it doesn't appear to be getting better anytime soon, and they're playing another good defense. I am all over the under for this one, and I thought it was. I think it right now. You can get that for on DraftKings. I think it's 40. It's either 44 or 42, one of the two. But I like it. Or no, 41.5 all the way down to. It's fine. I like it down to 40.5, 40. You can bet it even 39.5 at plus money if you want. This just projects to be a real ugly, slugfest. Like I would not be surprised if we have like a 19-13 just bleh. So that's my take. I'm with DMAC. I don't want any props for this game. I don't want any pieces of really anything for this game other than under. First half under, full game under, especially if it's going to rain.
Yes, sir. So I agree with Sosa with the Jerome Ford look. He told me about it yesterday. So I looked into it a little bit, and the just some data for the people to go off of it real quick. The Jaguars last season gave up, what was it? The third most receiving yards per game to running backs, and they gave up the most receptions at 6.4. So that's including, if teams have multiple backs, it could boost it up, but it's a clear backfield and a bell cow backfield for Jerome Ford. So I think he's in a great spot today. Spin just mentioned the weather, which I think bodes even better for us because we'll get those dump offs and screen plays, things like that. And I like Ford to get into the end zone. He's one of the only running backs that have some decent value today, especially being a starter. He's plus 140. We need, the touchdown value has pretty much been taken away this season. So him at plus 140, I do like. He got to the end zone against Dallas last week. And then I like ETN as well. 15.5 receiving yards. That's available on Fanatics. I think it's just too low. ETN, I usually, if he's at 17.5 receiving yards, I'll play it. But 15.5, I think it's low, and I think the weather helps out too. He's always involved in the Jacksonville passing game, so I think we, with his speed, we can see a quick dump off or a screen for him. He can cover that in one reception. So I like both of the backs receiving yards, and I like Ford plus 140 to get to the end zone. Oh, and Ford's line is Sosa said the receptions, but his actual receiving yards are at 19.5 on FanDuel.
Yeah, this game could go one of two ways. If it is raining, the unders are guaranteed. But if we get decent weather, this game could turn into something like where it's like blown coverage. I could just see some shenanigans in this one, man. It's like when they had Jacoby Brissett a couple years ago, and everybody was like, "Oh, this game is going to go under." When they played the Jets, and like both teams scored 35 points, you didn't see it coming. One of those type of deals. But let's get into the next game, and I'm gonna be brief on this one. Los Angeles Rams taking on the Arizona Cardinals. I think points. When I see these two teams, I think that I'm going to tell y'all right now, I'm betting on Marvin Harrison to have a day today. You're probably thinking, oh, he's a fan. He's just betting on the kid from Philly. No, I think that Kyler Murray just missed him. I don't know if it's because he's 5'5" or if he's just an ass. But I mean, if you want to win games, you should probably throw the ball to 18. I'm not trying. I don't quite get it. You know what I mean? He starts a YouTube channel the day before the first game where he's doing workouts with all these guys, and then he just forgets to throw the fucking rock to him. I'm on Marvin Harrison to go crazy today. I like him to have his first 100-yard game today. I like him to hoop today. I like him to go out there and be the generational superstar that we believe he's going to be, and he got to make up for last week not doing shit. I expect 10 targets to Marvin Harrison today, 10. They're gonna treat him like he's DeAndre Hopkins. And if Kyler Murray doesn't, he doesn't want to win games. Because a bunch of checkdowns and a bunch of little intermediate bullshit that Greg Dortch ain't gonna get it done. I like Trey McBride too, but you need these plays over the top. You need a number one receiver. That's why you drafted him top 5. So anybody who's thinking like, oh, Marvin might not, just chill. Marvin gonna put on a show today. He gonna make you remember real quick why he was the consensus best player in the draft. And as I said, that consensus best player in the draft. I know y'all are gonna tell me about quarterbacks and all that other shit. Marv was the best prospect. He was so good, he didn't have to put on tights and run a 40 to go top 5 playing receiver. That should tell you everything you need to know about the kid. As far as the Rams side, I expect points. I expect them to perform still, regardless of whatever. Why? Because I believe in McVay and Stafford being able to figure it out. I also don't believe in Arizona's defense. Arizona's defense in the second half came out and got put on the hub by Josh Allen. And I know it's Josh Allen, but Matt Stafford's a damn good quarterback. And he's going to perform whether or not the pieces around him are elite. I think we learned that last week, and we've learned that historically over the last couple of years, that him and McVay together, they're going to find ways to figure out the game at the end. If they're in that position, it's going to be close. If they keep it close, they're going to have a chance to win. trying to think. Obviously, Cooper Kupp to the moon. He's coming off 21 targets. How could I tell anybody not to bet on Cooper Kupp? And yeah, I'm not opposed to Dortch either, but I think we get fireworks. I think we get a relatively offensive game from both sides. My only fear is the offensive line for the Rams, but then I look at Arizona's defense and I'm like, these niggas stink. So that's where I'm at with it. Not picking a side. The line's too short. 1.5 is not enough for me. And an over under a 47.5, I lean towards the over. We'll go spin DMAC, or we'll go prop DMAC spin. We'll go.
Yeah, the initial thing I wanted to take in this one was Kyron Williams rushing yards and take it up to 100, not just based on the success he had against them last year, but just how bad the Cardinals were at stopping the run last season. They were the worst team in football. But the thing that has me a bit worried about it is the injuries to that Rams offensive line, and I think I just can't get there with that, and I might end up staying away. I do like Trey McBride in this spot. The Rams were top 4 as far as receiving yards allowed to tight ends. We saw a lot of the tight ends across the NFL. The marquee names not getting involved. So I think I like a lot of those guys to bounce back. So I think that McBride will be in for a good spot. But I got him in fantasy, so I'll be all right. I don't have to force a bet on him. I leaned the Cardinals to win this one, but I did a little research into it. They have not beat the Rams at home in 10 years, and they've only beaten them twice head-to-head since 2017. So it's a little tough for me. I couldn't get anything officially locked in. The Rams are down to a third-string left tackle, and they're using a backup center today. So that's huge, and it kind of throws off the capital run game for me. So slight lean to Trey McBride. If I had to bet on someone from the Rams side, I would take the secondary receivers. We know what Cooper Kupp does, but we know that this offense, anybody can produce in it, right? With McVay and Stafford, I don't think he'll be stingy with. I mean, he's stingy with targets. I don't want to say not stingy, but the other guys can produce. The Parkinsons and Tyler Johnson showed up last weekend, as well as Demarcus Robinson. So it was kind of hard for me to just pick one guy to bet on. So I left it alone from a props perspective. I do like the Marv look with you though.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of what Sosa said. The one that I like personally is Greg Dortch for 3+ receptions. I think that he's going to continue to get peppered with targets underneath. And the way that they built out this offense is, in the same way that Sosa referred to Jameson Williams last week, is having the run rate cleared. That's kind of what happened with Dortch and Michael Wilson as well. Dortch is going to continue to get those underneath targets because that's the way the offense has been built around. And I expect that to continue. Now, I don't think that limits what Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to do, because I think that they're still going to find ways to get explosives with him. Obviously, week 1 versus the Bills defense did a pretty solid job at containing him, trying to make sure that they funnel targets elsewhere. I don't think the Rams are going to be able to replicate that formula specifically, especially because they don't have as good as defensive coordinator as Sean McDermott is, and has proven to be on a consistent basis. That's something that I'm going to continue to harp on as far as the Bills, and he deserves credit for that, for as much as people like to make credit for him or make fun of him as a coach. But I do think there's going to be some fireworks, certainly on both sides. Over 47.5, I think it goes over that. I think we're going to get a lot of offense in this game. So personally, Dortch receptions, Marvin Harrison Jr. yards, I was looking at it maybe 70, 80 plus. I think he is in that range, and he has his first breakout game as far as his rookie year is concerned.
All right. Oh, go ahead. Sosa, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm mute.
I just want to answer this question. I don't know if he can make anything shake. Go ahead, Spin.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you just put Adam's Digest comment up there, because that's where I was going from the start. Colby Parkinson for this one. In addition to Puka Nacua being out, you also do have the offensive line issues, which last year, over the last few years, actually, the Rams have actually been one of the league leaders in 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers using under McVay. In camp, they tried a lot more 12 personnel, which is 2 and 2 tight ends and 2 receivers. Now they don't really have a choice because of Nakua's injury and some of the other injuries that they have. So as Adams Digest said, 5 targets last week, caught 4 of them for 47 yards. He got a 10% target share in the game, but that was when Puka Nacua was healthy. Arizona's tight end defense, shaky, and matching up, if you're using like player grades, the matching up is shaky as well. So there's from a Parkinson standpoint, since he's the clear number 1 tight end here, I think that he's startable in fantasy if you need a spot starter for tight end. I also think like the one that I like for him is anytime touchdown scorer at plus 330. So wouldn't put a bag on it, half unit max, but I think that there's going to be plenty of red zone looks, especially if you think points in this game. And if you think that Arizona is going to get some pass rush here on the Rams because of their offensive line issues, then you have tight ends slipping out for little screens, little dump offs, etc. So I think you can take his receiving yards, you can take his receptions if you want, but the one that I like that has the most value is Kobe Parkinson, anytime touchdown at plus 330 on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Not really. I have no interest in what. I hope the game ends in a fucking tie and it's 35-35 and you all win your bets. I hate both these fucking teams, man. I'm not even gonna lie. So next ball game we're gonna get into is the Cincinnati Bengals the Chiefs are playing the Bengals this week. It's another week of Bengals fans telling us about how amazing Joe Burrow is and how they're headed to the Super Bowl. And the game's at Kansas City.
Yes, it is. At Arrowhead.
Oh shit! Listen, I'm gonna jump out the window with this one. Everybody's been telling me the line. I don't give a fuck about the line, bruh. I don't care if it's 4.5, 5.5. Patrick Mahomes is gonna win. Sorry. I don't believe in Joe Burrow. Y'all been telling me about him for the last 2 years. The term injury prone, I don't really use because I'm a Sixer fan. I try to veer away from that term. But and listen, the videos of him flexing his wrist, it's great. It's just something to talk about. I love it. He's flexing his wrist. Like, all right, bro, like usually when you throw a football for a living, you're gonna do that. You know what I mean? Making it a big deal over nothing is to me it's just making a bigger deal than it is. You look at this football team, no T. Higgins. They want to play out a shotgun the whole fucking game. Listen, if I was an opposing defense, I would put 2 safeties over top, and I would say, listen, if you can't run the ball, you're not doing Nathan. You're not doing a motherfucking thing. You're gonna have to complete about 20 passes outside the numbers to get a chance to win a game. All right, that's what I see with this Bengals team. They're right back to where they were at the beginning 2 seasons ago. No creativity offensively. That's just what I saw last week. No creativity offensively. Not using enough motion. Who the fuck is Zach Moss? Like, who believes in Zach Moss? And I hate to sound like that guy, but like I'm not giving a lot of belief in a journeyman running back as your starter. And then you see Mixon get the ball 30 fucking times in Houston, and people act like he was a relic or something when he was in Cincinnati. Right? And also, this is my thing. They put 2 safeties on the field against CJ Stroud, and what did he do? He just handed the fucking ball off. He didn't even care. He was like, all right, bet. I don't care if he's not getting 10 a clip or 6 a clip. We're just going to keep sticking to it. I have no faith in Cincinnati. I have no faith in them at all. They're hanging on a prayer because they believe that Joe Burrow was born in Bethlehem when a star came out one night. And that's unfortunate because I don't know if he's that guy. You know what I'm saying? If I made the Super Bowl 2-3 years, oh wait, I did. I'd have to probably do it again for people to give a fuck. That's how I feel. Since he's made the Super Bowl, he's done a whole bunch of fucking nothing, and the internet keeps telling me how fucking good he is. I'm over it. Go win a game against Kansas City, and he's got to win. Who gives a fuck if he has a winning record against a guy? Win your division. Stay healthy for 17 games. Don't put your team behind the 8 ball when they get to the playoffs. Just saying. I like the Chiefs to win and cover. I like the third quarter over in this game. I think I think I'm gonna bet a pregame. I don't really give a fuck who gets the ball first in the game. And on the Cincinnati Bengals side, I want to say Joe to throw a pick, but I think Joe will take a sack before I think he'll take a sack before he throws a pick sometimes. So, on to whomever has thoughts on it. Me, like I said, I just wanted to get that little Cincinnati rant out of the way because their fans. I'm friends with some of their fans, but they be saying some stupid shit on the internet.
I'll make mine real quick here. I talked about it at the beginning of the show with the Bengals, and while I do expect their offense to be a little bit better and more competitive today, if you think that with the only thing that's really changed for them is just one more, like 3 or 4 days with Jamar Chase at practice instead of just sitting off to the sideline. That's the only thing that's changed. Now they got to go on the road in a hostile environment. They have still no T. Higgins. Nothing else has changed from last week. So I personally like the Bengals team total under for this one. I don't think that it can. I think that you can actually hit both the one that Sosa gave out with the third quarter and the Bengals overall team total under. This team just has too many things working against them right now when it comes to injuries, when it comes to new pieces, when it comes to guys only being there part-time during camp. That's still going to take another 2 or 3 weeks, I think, to work out. So while I would expect their offense to be better than it was last week, to expect that the Bengals all of a sudden are going to rebound and look like they did the last few times they played the Chiefs, and this to be like this 41-38 shootout with the Bengals coming out on top. I'm sorry, it's just not realistic to me. So for me, I'm on the Bengals team total under for this game. And I was trying to look at where the best place you can get that at. It is actually, I'll get it. You can come back to me.
Okay. So as far as this game is concerned, I do think that we should win this game handily. Now, of course, the Chiefs have a propensity to not necessarily blow out teams. We, generally speaking, will keep it within a somewhat range. So I wouldn't take us through any alt lines over 14.5 or anything crazy like that. I do think that we end up covering this 5.5, though, winning by at least a touchdown from this standpoint. The key things for me are, because of the way that the Bengals defense is kind of set up, you saw the struggles that they have versus Ramondre Stevenson and stopping the run. Now you're adding the element of Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid's passing game, Travis Kelce, trying to keep extra eyes on him, Rashee Rice, who had an amazing game versus the Ravens, and obviously Xavier Worthy taking the top off the defense. I expect that will lead to Isaiah Pacheco having a dang good game. He's always had really good games versus the Bengals, and specifically being able to rush the ball. He went for over 130 yards versus them last year. I expect that he at least gets 70 on the ground this year. So that's my best bet as well. The other thing, Chris Jones loves to see the interior of this offensive line. He just has a really fun time with it. So if you want to bet him for a sack, another play that I'm looking at. Last look, Noah Gray for 25 plus receiving yards on the alt line. I really like what we do from heavy personnel sets. Again, if you're going to establish that run, that's how you be able to create some plays outside of that with passing and structure. Noah Gray is a really underrated weapon for us in those specific heavy personnel sets, and Patrick Mahomes feels comfortable targeting him. Did it versus the Ravens last week. I expect him to get 25 plus in this week as well. So I think the Chiefs cover the 5.5, and I expect Noah Gray, Chris Jones, and Isaiah Pacheco to have really good days in their respective fields.
And just, sorry, I found it. Under 20.5 minus 115 Bengals team total. That would be my official one for the show.
Also, if you are, I will say this as well. If you're going to do the whole live betting thing, as Sosa kind of alluded to, third quarter over, specifically if there's a Chiefs third quarter over and we defer to start out, that's easy money. It usually almost always is.
That's my strategy. Unless they score a touchdown with 12 fucking minutes left in the third quarter and they don't score any fucking points against Baltimore for some reason. That shit had me so mad. You score 12 minutes, 30 seconds, you're like, oh, they'll get a field goal. Didn't happen. So I'm running it right back. And I'm trying to look at it now where it's like I might get a better number. It's very rare that you'd bet a third quarter early, but it is what it is. Prop, last word on this game.
Man, I just it was so many options for this one on the Chiefs side that I didn't know who to pull the trigger on, so I ended up betting both of my favorite props. From an FTN standpoint, our just the projections prop wise, our biggest edge is unders on Joe Burrow passing yards. That goes with Spin's team total underlook. On the Chiefs side, we got Mahomes projected for 302 passing yards. I think his line is at 271.5. I didn't get to the window there, but I love Rashee Rice in this spot. Over the 67.5. D-Mac mentioned, I think you mentioned Pacheco's good game. I don't know if you mentioned Rice too, but in that same game, Pacheco went for 130 and Rashee Rice went for, I believe, 127. And we just saw the way the offense looked. Rashee Rice is the new slant god. I mean, he dominated the Ravens defense with just slants. It was crazy to see, and I don't see why that won't be there today. The Bengals were, I think, the third worst team against tight ends last season. Against receivers, they weren't much better. They allowed the fourth most passing yards last season, and I think they're also a bottom 5 in rushing yards, right? Bottom 6 in rushing yards, bottom 4 in passing yards. I think the Chiefs roll in this one. I like the -6. I don't know what's the exact line now. 6.5 again? Or was it 6? It is 6.5. But I like the Chiefs to win by a touchdown. I know D-Mac said that they usually, for some reason, they play the Bengals close. I think the last 2 games was the Chiefs won by 7 or 8 and then won by 3. Before that, the Bengals had won 3 straight. I think the Chiefs even that up. I never forget the Burrowhead talk either. So I think every game in this matchup is taken personally by the players on both sides. I just think the Chiefs have too much firepower, even though they'll be without Hollywood Brown for the regular season. I think the offense has more than enough now with the addition of Worthy, and you get Rashee Rice. He's more mature now on the football field in his second season. So I like Rashee. I like Kelsey. I figured the teams would try to continue to take him away. I'm not going to overreact to the only 3 catches against the Ravens either, though. So I couldn't talk you off of Kelsey over the 50.5, Rashee Rice over the 67.5. And I love Pacheco. I got his receiving yards at over 15.5. I don't know what it's at now, but I thought that line was just too low. I like Pacheco's rushing plus receiving prop as well. Everything Chiefs. Everything. And my choices were between Pacheco, Rashee, and Kelsey. I'm not mad at any of the props. And I can see Kelsey getting to the end zone. He's plus money today, plus 125. So I think this is the type of game where he gets to the end zone.
Yeah, look, I don't hate that at all, especially targeting him versus this linebacker room. I mean, it could be taken advantage of specifically a lot. And, kind of the reason why those recent games were a little bit closer than maybe they should have been. The reality of the situation is the Bengals don't start off well. We were facing them later on in this season. I think that plays a huge role as far as that's concerned. Getting them early in this spot in which their defense is still significantly in flux, trying to adjust new pieces. And their offense, obviously, now without T. Higgins, is still trying to find its footing as well. They may slow down in the fourth quarter. That's why I'm not necessarily on as much of the explosive plays as Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, over yards. But certainly Travis Kelce in the red zone, I think he can convert.
Did y'all hear that? Y'all heard D-Mac say "fuck the Bengals" and their fans? Y'all heard him say that? Y'all heard him say that, right?
Ain't no love lost over this way.
Y'all heard him say that, right?
Fuck the Bengals, fuck the Cincinnati mayor, fuck they fans, fuck they Skyline Chili.
Okay, there we go.
Okay,
all right. See, I was waiting for it. Because, see, dog, this motherfucking hero is over here trying to pretend like this is like he don't fuck with them at all, bro. And on the timeline, they definitely don't fuck with him at all. So this is funny to me. Like, it's like, he's like, man.
Well, look, the same way Spin, was like, I'm going to give you the objectivity between the Saints and the guy. I'm going to give you the objectivity, but also fuck them at the same time.
All right, see, that's the energy we need. That's what I need.
Yeah, hey, I've picked the Saints to win many times with just following up an OPS, fuck the Saints. It's like, hey, Saints to win, Saints to cover, fuck the Saints. There, that's not today, but I've done that many times.
Yeah, definitely not today, bro. We got
to be clear,
not today. We're not on that today. But listen, first and foremost, we never get into the Monday night game on this show. Why? Because Monday night is for the trenches and ballers only. If you guys aren't already rocking with the streams, look to the upper right-hand corner, playback.tv/Sosa. Last week, during the 1 o'clock games, that was the place to be. 1 and 4 o'clock games, that was the place to be. It was rocking. We made money. And then on both the primetime games, Monday night, Thursday night, a lot of live looks. Spin hasn't quite joined yet. I'm sure he'll have some stuff for you throughout the season. But make sure you guys are there. Playback, Prop, and I have, we're growing. He obviously did a whole bunch of stuff during baseball for loaded bases. But during the NFL season, we're going to have tons of content via Playback. Make sure you guys are locked in. Make sure you guys subscribe to Win the Day TV, and make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you guys are locked in with DMAC on Kingdom Cast. That's with a K. Wanted to make sure I got quick promo out the way before we talk about the Houston Texans game. We got a Sunday night matchup. First and foremost, I'm happy as shit. It's two black quarterbacks on Sunday night TV. Sunday night football. I mean, that itself is enough to get you to get me through the turnstile, right? Two number one rated, high rated young quarterbacks. CJ Stroud coming off one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever fucking seen. Caleb Williams entering the season with a lot of hype in Chicago, replacing Justin Fields. You got a fan base that's split. You got a fan base that will lie when they win. And then you got the Houston Texans, who is everybody's darling this year. They believe in this team to be a Super Bowl contending team. You look at the roster, it's loaded on both sides of the ball. You got a defensive-minded head coach. And obviously, I just mentioned C.J. Stroud. Everybody and their mother is extremely high on this kid, as am myself. I mean, I wasn't huge on him coming out of college, but he made me a believer relatively quickly. It's kind of like when you get baptized and become a Christian all of a sudden. It's like it's instant. And I just became a fan of the guy. So this matchup, I think 6.5 is a lot. And I know a lot of people are going to tell me that Houston's going to beat the shit out of Chicago. And y'all have every right to do that. Chicago's offense showed us nothing. But all I ask for people who watched the Chicago Bears last week is to have a little bit of grace. That Tennessee defense that they've seen is fucking nice. Okay? And I mean, I urge you to go watch the tape of L'Jarius Sneed in week 1. And you tell me he didn't earn every single penny of what they fucking paid him. He was amazing. To me, he was my highest graded corner. Outside of the guy on the other side, Jalen Johnson was outrageously good too. But L'Jarius Sneed on Sunday, OMG. What he did against the Chicago offense. Chiefs fans, I don't know if y'all were sad watching it or what, but that shit was crazy. In this matchup,
I'm happy my dog got paid.
Fair enough. I do like Houston to perform relatively well against the Chicago defense. They're going to give up some explosive plays. That's just part of what it is. They're going to make plays, and they're going to give a couple plays up too. That's just part of the identity of being an extremely aggressive unit. I'm taking Chicago with the points. I'm taking Chicago with the 6.5. It's a primetime game. Very excited to see how both these players. I think is this CJ's first Sunday night game?
It might be.
Yeah, I don't think they were. They weren't on Sunday night.
I don't think they had one. They probably didn't have one last year. So yeah,
right. And I don't think they had a Monday night game either. Right?
Probably not.
I'm pretty sure they had
I want to say they played on Monday night.
Who did they
because
play?
We watched them come back, right?
Did they play the Colts or did they play
the Saints?
The Panthers? Was it
the Buccaneers?
Right? Did they play the Eagles on Thursday night? I'm trying because I know they had I'm trying to think of like Sunday or Monday night because Thursday night games don't count to me. Those aren't legit. Like those aren't.
So that's what I thought. So they played
Monday night.
They played at the Colts in January for a Monday night game.
But that was with Minshew, right?
Yeah, because Anthony was hurt by the time. But other than that, all they had was 1 p.m. games.
They got 6 prime time
the entire season.
Amazing what a quarterback can do for you, right?
Yeah, now they got
something to watch now. Okay, we gotta. But like again, just opinion wise, I like Chicago with the points tonight. I'm rocking with them. I think their defense is going to perform pretty well. it's hostile grounds going into Houston now. It's expectations. It's a different realm of stuff. I think Houston probably wins the game, but I think I like for Chicago to be competitive. I think that Houston secondary can be had in the back end. You can beat them with explosive plays. Obviously, Keenan Allen on Odunze's availability it's a tough ask, but I think it's a great test for Caleb Williams. First primetime game, we're gonna see what he looks like. In college, his last couple primetime games did not go well. Let's not forget that. But that's where I'm at. I like Chicago with the points, and I'm gonna run back DeAndre Swift over 11.5 receiving yards again this week. I think the number is actually better, or actually worse. But I like for DeAndre Swift to be effective. I think that again, the Bears were a victim of circumstance. They saw a damn good defense that killed them, that killed their offensive line in the trenches. And I think I look for a little better level of continuity from that offensive line. I expect the defense to show up still. We'll go prop DMAC spin doc to close it out, and we'll go to any other looks that y'all like in today's schedule.
Yes, sir. So I like the Texans in this one, and I like them to win and cover. And we're not just on the opposite sides because it's the Bears. I believe what the Bears struggle with, the Texans do extremely well. We talk about the Bears defense a lot. They are not a good pass defense. I know Jalen Johnson's a great corner, but as a unit, they were not great last season. And I think we see that show its head in primetime tonight. They gave up the 7th most pass yards per game last year. The 3rd most passing touchdowns, almost 2 passing touchdowns per game, and also the 8th highest completion percentage. CJ Stroud at home last season, over the 1.5 touchdowns, it's juiced, but he was over in 7 out of 9 games. But the passing yards at the crib, CJ averaged 306.7 passing yards per game. He was over this 261.5, and 7 out of those 9. I'm going back there. I like CJ definitely over the 261. I'm leaning to over the 300 with these weapons. I think it'll present a lot of matchup problems for the Bears. And the Bears offensive line, this is what I told Sosa. It's not just a Caleb Williams thing for me. I don't think the Bears offensive line is a good unit. And I think we saw that show its head against the Colts, and that we'll see it show its head against this Texans defense as well. While I'm not a huge believer in the Texans defense, I don't think it takes a great unit to get pressure against that Chicago offensive line. So it's the Texans home opener. It is prime time. I think the stage is set for CJ to roll tonight. Like you said, we've seen Caleb struggles in primetime games, but not even just all on Caleb. Rome Odunze is pushing to play today, but he's playing with a grade 1 MCL sprain. It's not going to be the same. Keenan Allen is, 34 years old, 33? He's dealing with an ankle injury. It's not going to be the same Keenan Allen already. And on top of that, he's dealing with injuries. So I just think everything is in the Texans' court. The Bears are a great rush defense, so Mixon will not get the ball 30 times, but that'll force CJ to throw the ball, and which I love. The Bears. Oh, my favorite play, first of all, is Stephon Diggs over 4.5 receptions. If they continue to drop that line, I'll take it all season long. I wrote up an article about that. Nico and Tank can take the top off of defenses, but Diggs is going to be that intermediate threat pretty much all season long, and a possession receiver. So the 4.5 being minus 125, I think it's just an auto bet for me. And every time I see that line, I'm going to bet it this season. So that was my favorite play, literally on the board for Sunday. I took that as soon as the lines dropped. And the Bears, as far as completions, they gave up the 4th most completions per game last season. And they gave up the most completions per game to quarterbacks on the road, almost 27 a game. So everything CJ Stroud, everything Stephon Diggs, and I love the Texans to win and cover.
Look, I think this is going to be an interesting game. Personally, I don't have any specific plays. Again, a little bit more of a fact-finding mission. I think this may be a case in which the Bears are a little bit outclassed. I think the Texans are really good on both sides of the ball. And the Bears right now need some traction to be built on the offensive side. And it may not come in this game. There may be some ways in which, D'Amico Ryans and that defense gets after this offensive line. Presents some challenges as well. I'm going to be interested as far as the flexibility of the offensive scheme for the Bears specifically. Do they try and work in a little bit more Cole Kmet? Is that, a little bit more of a target that they go to because obviously Keenan Allen is limited, because Rome Odunze is limited? Do they try to figure out a way to go that way instead? So that's going to be the thing that I'm looking for. Houston Texans, I expect CJ Stroud and the boys to have a good game. But again, the Chicago Bears are a good defense. So there's no real player weakness that I really want to attack from that aspect as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at scheme wise. But certainly as far as plays, I don't really have any specifically. I do think Texas probably win by a touchdown, but I don't love it enough to bet the line. Go ahead, Spin.
Okay, yeah. From a prop perspective, nothing really for me at the moment. I can't disagree with anything that you guys just said. I think that this game might go slightly under. It's just a lean. It's nothing that I'm actively looking to like run to the window on. And because it opened at 47 down to 45, you do have a decent discrepancy between money and bets on the under on this one. I'm not sure that I love it at 45. If I could get a 46 or a 46 and a half, I'd probably feel a little bit better about it, just because I do agree that I think that the Bears offense will be better, but like Prop said, look, the Bears have a lot of things working against them this week, and that's not a knock on Caleb Williams or in prime time or anything that they're doing or have done or anything like that. That's just the reality of the situation that they're in right now, is that they have banged up receiver core and they have a rookie quarterback, and they're going in to face an aggressive defense with a quarterback who wasn't good against pressure in college, who had less than a sub 50% completion percentage when pressured in college. So I don't really, I think that 6 is probably right around where it should be. But I'll take a small lean on the under for this one. And then for me to close out, just because I normally do, just if I already gave some in the chat, but if you're looking for some tournament stacks for this week for, say, like DraftKings or FanDuel, I think that you can stack the Lions and the Bucks game pretty well. You can actually stack one side of that and run it back a whole bunch of different which ways, whether that's Baker and Mike Evans, run it back with Amon-Ra for a spendier one. You can run Goff and Jameson Williams and then run it back with Godwin for a less expensive one. I think that you can do that. I think that if you're going to run in some cash games, I would probably look for a guy like Breece Hall. Makes a lot of sense. I think that you can use Jordan Mason. Those guys have very, very safe floors. I think that you can also run Kyron Williams in that spot. You know, again, with cash games, always looking for guys with safe floors. For tournaments, there's a few guys that I would think would project for relatively low ownership that are probably going to get volume. Josh Jacobs would be one of those, because really the Packers have no choice. And I think that you can also look, a sneaky tournament play could be Terry McLaurin. So I know that a few times we've talked about some of his receiving yards props on here. Got a really, really good chance to get it going. And a lot of people that play DFS will overreact to week 1 and not look at the situation that they're in. So any of those I think can work in a variety of DFS lineups, but that's all I got.
It's also frozen for you. There he is.
My fault, yo. I was just watching. I'm gonna be honest. I was watching the video. Shadur Sanders tell the opposing quarterback to eat a dick, and I'm totally okay with him saying that. To be totally honest with you, like that's what I probably would have told the opposing quarterback. You talk all that shit. Don't get in my face after we serve you.
I'm trying to shake my hand.
Trying to shake my hand. Talk about we friends. Like that's the easiest way to get slapped the fuck up for real. Like that's the easiest way. Like if you talk shit, just stay away from me, bro. For real. Like don't try to be my friend. And that's corny behavior. Listen, the Texas Pack going up around 11:30 tonight. We gonna see how this go, man. Houston. Great night, great chance to make a statement as far as the team goes. I mean, obviously, anybody can win the offseason Olympics, and there were the Olympics this year actually too. So I'm not a hater of C.J. Stroud. I think they probably anymore, right? But yeah, but that was a brief moment in life, man.
He's gonna show you how your boy really is.
Jesus wept.
You can play on rocks to diamonds. You'll see it on
Jesus wept. A diamond is a rock. Depend on how you.
I mean, the rock.
Hey, it's like Chrysler 300 look like a Phantom to a Phantom pull up.
Yeah, that Caleb Williams rocket still got dirt on it. The CJ rock getting ready to go on the chain. Like, you still got to clean the Caleb Williams rock, man. You'll be cleaning off. Don't worry about it.
Don't let Caleb be out here snatching chains tonight now, nigga. I swear to God, don't get CJ better not get his chain snatched.
I don't think he's a chain snatcher, but I can't
Starting
say what I really, can't tell you what I think he is, but yeah.
So you can't snatch a chain with a pedicure, with a manicure?
Nah, I don't think he hit the same.
You can only snatch chains. You can only snatch chains with no nail polish.
He probably could snatch a chain in somewhere like Montana, not in Houston.
He said Jay Prince ain't having that, brother. Fuck that.
Not in Houston,
it's not going down. The Rap-A-Lot niggas not having it. All right, man. That's gonna wrap up what we're rocking with today. As far as the show, make sure you guys subscribe to Win the Day TV and Sunday Quarterbacks. Make sure you're following Sunday Quarterbacks on Twitter, and make sure you're subscribed to playback.tv/Sosa. Make sure you guys are locked in with DMAC. DMAC did a full preview of the Kansas City Chiefs Cincinnati Bengals game on Kingdom Cast YouTube channel. Make sure you guys tap in with them. I used to hate Chiefs fans. They're actually not that bad. And some of them are actually very smart. So unless they're giving opinions about LeBron, then that shit goes.
Hey, we're not
very fast.
Associate me with that. Okay. Yeah.
But definitely check out Kingdom Cast with a K.
Yes.
And Cast. And make sure you guys Go ahead.
I was going to say, check out that video I have going up about the Cincinnati Bengals versus Kansas City Chiefs, specifically trenches of Kingsley versus Trey Henderson. But also check out here on Win the Day TV if you haven't seen it already. Me, Spin, and Mecco Scott over there at Pride of Detroit. We did a full breakdown of the Bucs and Lions game, obviously going off here in about an hour and a half. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you check that out as well.
Make sure you check out Win the Day VIP. That is a service provided by me and Spin Doctor for all your betting needs. The links available in our bios. Make sure you guys are also checking out FTN Bets. That is Prop and his squad over at FTN Betting. They have insane data. I've gotten to use a bunch of the stuff, and they I mean, as far as like a fantasy football standpoint, I have not used a platform that is better than FTN. Their data collection and the data that they have available at your fingertips is absolutely second to none. And yeah, make sure you locked in with me and Spin. We got a bunch of shit coming. Prop is always working, whether it's playback, Twitter, YouTube, whether it's streams he's doing with FTN. He's always doing something, whether it's baseball. Obviously, you guys know us from basketball and football. We run laps around people with that stuff, but man, make sure you guys are tapped in with all the people on here. Also, Spin still does a show with, what's my boy named Bookie? What's his name?
Buster Bookie.
Buster Bookie. Make sure you guys are tapped in with that. I know Spin is always doing content in regards to his niche, which is betting baseball, K-props. We got the playoffs coming. When the playoffs come around, it's like shooting fish in a barrel for Spin. I know this from personal experience. So make sure you guys are locked in with everybody. Again, appreciate everybody that tuned in, whether it's you left a comment, asked a question, retweeted. We greatly appreciate that. Without you guys, we can't grow. I think my favorite thing about the first episode is that on our first video of this season, we got more views on the video than we had subscribers, which should tell you everything you need to know about the information that you're getting on this program. People are locked in, and if you go back and watch last week's show, we gave you a shit ton of winners. I mean, Chicago -4 was so easy. I'm just playing. That motherfucker should have lost.
You got to sort that one out, but if you bet it, you won.
Right. Never a doubt, brother. And that's what we're going to keep doing. That's what we're going to keep doing for the people the entire season. And I don't really have anything hateful to say. Have a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy some time with the family. Call your mom, tell her you love her if you can. And we'll see you next week. God bless. Peace.
Peace out.
Peace.
I love that. Do you guys love that?
I like that.
What happened?